Hello and welcome, everyone. Delighted to have all of you here. It's so fun to see some familiar names and then also to see some new names as well. So, the purpose of our 30-minute conversation is to explore some of the scenarios and challenges that come up in our coaching relationships. Several of you submitted questions ahead of time, and a couple of you had a common theme with those questions. You were looking at, hey, how can I manage this with team coaching or group coaching? So what we're going to do is make sure we build in answers to that as we go through the conversation. And of course, we want to continue inviting more questions. So if you have a question while we're in the program, two options. One, you can raise your hand if you're brave, and I will unmute you, and you can come on live and ask your question. And then two, you can type it in the question panel. One thing a couple of you wanted to know is, will you have access to this information later? And the answer is yes. Each time we do one of these webinars, we record it and we load the recording on the YouTube channel. For everyone who registers, we actually send you a direct link to the webinar, so you will have access to the information again. All right, let's dive in. Where are we going with this conversation? Our agenda today, we're going to talk different scenarios and solutions with coaching. We're going to move through pretty quick because we only have 30 minutes. So if you want more time or less time on a topic, please let me know. Just type in a message to me. We will talk logistical challenge. We've got an example for you. We're going to talk about relationship challenges, challenging coachees. Guessing that never happens to anyone, right? Okay. And then we will talk about coaching competency and resources for you. To start, guessing most of you are familiar, just looking at who's here, with the definition of coaching. I do want to bring it up and put it out there for those of you who are still unfamiliar with it. This comes from the International Coach Federation, and coaching is defined as a strategic partnership in which the coach empowers the client to clarify goals, create action plans, move past obstacles, and achieve what the client chooses. With that in mind, let's dive in. A logistical challenge. So here's the scenario. It's, hey, am I ready to coach? And what's so interesting is so often people complete the coach training and they're literally unsure about navigating the steps to do it. So part of it, yes, it's getting the training, having the code of ethics and forms, setting up the office, the business and the marketing plan, and then it's having the confidence. Hey, am I really ready to coach? So let's talk about it. And I'm going to go quick on this one because we want to spend more time on others. I do want to say if anyone wants to hang around afterwards, I'll stay on too. So of course, in terms of getting ready to be a coach, you want to complete your ICF approved training. There are hundreds of options out there. Of course, we hope you consider us for that. It's so important to have your training. Please note, ICF requires 60 hours of training. So sometimes people do an initial program, and that's absolutely wonderful. It's a great way to get yourself started. When you're marketing yourself as a coach, you want to move on and move toward membership in the ICF, which requires, for example, in our organization, we do a professional coach class and then either a master coach or a coach specialist class so that you are qualified to join the ICF. So that's a first step. Setting yourself up with forms makes sense. Having your coaching agreement ready, you can pull from examples on the coach login page, having your code of ethics or even including a link to it in your coaching agreement. And then of course, what kind of intake are you going to do? What questionnaires, what session prep? So some coaches, for example, will have a questionnaire they send to clients in anticipation of your session, different options for you. So depending on the type of coaching, having those things in place makes it so easy when you're getting started. Setting up your business and marketing plans is very, very important. Having that infrastructure in place moves you forward. And then, of course, for doing the coaching, if you've gone through the coach training, you were given a process, use it. use it, we recommend with at least 3 people, and then move past that process and make it your own and create your own with your client. And the bottom line is when you have completed coach training, you really are ready. Trust yourself and know that you have that ability to make a positive difference for others. All right, let's dive into what we really want to talk about. We are going to start with a logistical challenge. So, a lack of information or misinformation. This is going to sound familiar to a lot of you. So, for example, if you have somebody who's mid-level manager, uh, they got promoted and then they're not achieving their objectives. And of course, that mid-level manager is saying, yeah, all these people that were my friends, my colleagues, I'm now their boss and they're undercutting me because they resent me getting the promotion. And then all the friends and colleagues are saying, oh, well, he's a micromanager, he's a dictator, it's gone to his head that he got the promotion. So is it one, is it the other? Who knows? Some combination thereof. How do you handle it as a coach? So the first thing is go back to your basics. You've got your training in coaching and group coaching. It's a tool. And the model you have, the process for doing that actually works. So when you think about your core basics, it's really asking, okay, what is it you want? What might get in the way? What are the resources to move forward? How are you going to move forward? Your basic core works. It is important in this engagement that you're defining the parameters. So, of course, your coaching agreement, your code of ethics, you also are going to want to have an agreement regarding sharing of information. So specifically, it may be that you're coaching just the mid-level manager. It may be that you're doing a combination of coaching the mid-level manager and then also coaching with the people that report to that mid-level manager. Hey, what's going on? And if there's more than one coaching engagement as part of this process, what information is going to be shared and how is it going to be shared? So being super clear of that. Now, of course, while there's so much opportunity here to work with the individual manager and then also work with their team, you also want to be aware of potential conflicts of interest. So in terms of conflicts of interest, one of the things we talk about in coach training is being transparent, and we also give you a decision tree. And the decision tree boils down to, hey, am I going to be effective as a coach for this mid-level manager and or for their group or team of people in terms of doing the coaching? And then you also are asking the question, what's going on with the mid-level manager? Is there the potential for a conflict with what's going on with the group or team? Given the scenario we set up for you, it's yes, there is. So it goes back to, okay, can I still effectively coach both the team and the mid-level manager? And there's not a right or wrong answer here. Some people will say, yes, I can. I'm fine coaching both. And some people are going to say, you know what? I'm not going to be effective with both. And then you've got to make a decision before you even start. Hey, what role is appropriate? Do I want to bring in a different coach and one of us coach the manager and one of us coach the team, or turn it all over to somebody else altogether? Whatever is appropriate. And of course, when that coaching is happening, talking about any potential conflict of interest, and make sure everybody's clear on what it is and involved in choosing whether it makes sense to move forward with the coaching. So now let's move into the actual coaching itself. So you decide to engage, you figure, yes, this is a good match. So you're exploring with the client. Now with the mid-level manager, you're giving them a chance to express, hey, this is what's going on, here's what's happening. And you say, okay, great. Now, what's a different perspective? How are others perceiving what's happening? And you do the exploration with the client. The same is true with the group. You're asking them, okay, they get a chance to tell you what's going on, and you say, what is a different perspective? How do other people see this? And be specific even. So for example, with the mid-level manager, how does your team perceive what's happening? And with the group, how does the manager perceive what's happening? So people really explore both sides of it. And then you're going to be asking them, okay, what do you want the outcome to be? How are you going to get there? And you're back to your traditional process with coaching. For those of you who have gone through our professional coach class, you're probably picking up, we're using some of the STOP model from the conflict management piece in this scenario. Very, very helpful, and we're going to touch on it again in a couple of minutes. So I will move toward that. All right, let's talk about a relationship challenge. Again, similar. A manager wants their employee coached, and it's a corrective measure. The manager saying, hey, they're not getting there on taking care of the job. The manager wants to tell the coach all about what's going on, and then they want the coach to report back after each session about what's going on. So, of course, as the coach, one of the very first things you're dealing with here is what information from the manager can you pass on? And of course, you're thinking through how you're going to pass that on, how you're going to frame it, etc. And then also, you've got to address what information can and cannot be reported following a coaching session. Now, one of the things that's available to all of you as an example, we have a white paper on internal coaching programs, and we show setting up a little table. It's creating a report that's filled out with the client. So the coach and the client together list the objectives, what the client's working on, their plan for working on that, their notes on how it's going. They complete the form together, and then either the client can turn it into their manager, or they can give the coach permission to turn it into their manager. What's important on this front end of this conversation is that you're being really, really clear on that. Now, of course, let's add to the situation. Once you start doing the coaching, the employee that you're coaching starts telling you secrets. So let's go through step by step. When the supervisor wants details, you've got to set the expectations in advance in terms of confidentiality, and that ultimately the client gets to decide what information is or is not shared that comes out of the coaching sessions. It also works with setting the expectation in terms of what information the sponsor, the manager in this case, gives you that you can share. So you've got to be clear on that. So we talked about the example of the report. You can create your own as well. You and the client work together on how that's going to work. And there's a good possibility that even though your engagement is with the employee, that's the person you're coaching, you're going to end up having coaching conversation or more than one with the manager themselves, because sometimes that's part of the challenge. Now, what's interesting for coaches is then what's happening is you're going, okay, so I'm being paid to coach the employee, and now I'm putting time into also coaching their manager. And it may be that you can add coaching the manager to the agreement, or you can even add doing coaching with both of them, that conflict coaching in the same session. And it may be you simply say, you know what, I'll put in the extra time. And you're aware that oftentimes when you're working hired by a company, it's different than the rate you pay with that you charge for an individual. And this is one of the reasons, because you have extra time involved in dealing with other people. So a couple of possibilities. Now I'm going to talk through the conflict management model we discussed in your professional coach class. So the easy way to remember it is STOP, use stop conflict. So each letter, of course, stands for something. The S in STOP stands for stories. And what it means is that each person involved gets a chance to tell their story. It's very, very important when there's a conflict that people know they've been heard and understood. And until they've been heard and understood, they're not ready to move on. So if you have them both together, you're going to ask them who wants to go first. Whoever does go first, you apply all your coaching. You actively listen and you rephrase what they say. Please keep in mind that when you rephrase what they say, they know they've been heard and understood, and the other person can hear your rephrasing even when they're unable to really hear what the person they're in conflict with is saying. You make sure they each get that opportunity. Then you're going to work with them together to define the topics. Hey, what are the points to talk about, to work through? Whatever either one of them wants on that list goes on that list, and it's literally physically, if you're in the same space with them, have one piece of paper with one list. It's together that you're doing this. Once you have the list, you're deciding which topic is being addressed first, and you're asking them for options. It is absolutely essential that everyone involved give multiple options, because if they only give one, in their mind, that's all there is, they'll get stuck and that'll be it. So they each give multiple options, and then you figure out which option you're going to go with. So it's a brainstorming process. Once you know which option you're going to go with, you have them writing their plan. They decide who's doing what, when they're doing it, and how they're tracking that, etc. So it's up to them. Now, this process that I've just described also works with a group or a team. You can use the same exact process. I've done it literally where we had a whole neighborhood in the conversation, and it absolutely works. Now, when you have a lot of people involved, if it's a larger team, for example, what you want to do is have them in groups based on what their position is, and one person from each group is the spokesperson, so that you manage how much time is happening in terms of telling the stories, etc. So that's your conflict process. In terms of the employee telling you secrets, if you're hearing damaging information, first off, if there is a threat of harm or an unreported crime, that is the exception to our confidentiality. That's something that gets reported. Alternatively, if it's the employee saying, oh, this, that, the manager's having an affair, or they, are wasting time, or those other things, then what you're doing is really working with the employee to engage on what they want, what they control, and how they're going to move forward. Alternatively, with the manager, it's the same concept. So you're working with them, focusing on what they do want to do and how they're going to make it happen. That's our theme in coaching, right? That forward focus. Okay, so let's keep going. We're going to talk about challenging coachees. We're going to do 3 different scenarios. So one is you've got somebody who's just stuck in the drama. They wanted a promotion, they resent not getting it. A different scenario, you've got somebody who, whatever happens, they're pointing the finger at everybody else. And then another one is somebody who lacks confidence in their own ability to do what it is they're there to do. So all of these scenarios come up. Let's go through them. First off, in terms of solutions, think about what you know to do as a coach, because again, your overarching skills work in all of these scenarios. You've got the ability. So the first thing is you're creating awareness. So part of that awareness is, it gives you a chance to understand what's going on. A big piece of it is for that individual to get really clear. So it's back to, you're asking them to talk about the scenario, and you're asking them what others around them are perceiving. So creating awareness of how it's coming across. Then you're using your clear and direct questions. Okay? You're being respectful with your language. You're rephrasing what they're saying and asking the next question. You engage that individual in figuring out what they want it to be and figuring out their own solutions. And of course, as a coach, be open to not knowing what the answer is going to be. So let's go into the individual that is stuck in the drama. They wanted the promotion, they didn't get it. You're going to listen to the situation, you're going to clarify it, you're going to be clear and direct when you rephrase what they say, and you're going to ask powerful questions. So one of the questions you're asking them is, what do you want it to be? How do you get there? So if that individual wants the promotion, how are you going to set yourself up to get the next promotion? How are you going to set yourself up for a future opportunity? And you're exploring that. Part of what you're going to do as you move them forward is explore what got in the way this time. How do you move past that for next time? Use your coaching questions and get them focused on what they're doing moving forward. If you have somebody who lacks ownership, okay, one of the things we do in coaching is we confront what's going on. What's important here is the language, how we do it. So if I have a person I'm coaching and whatever happens, they're blaming everybody else, I'm going to be saying things to them like, what I'm hearing you say is you feel or you think, and I'll put those qualifiers in there, that this is a result of this happening or this action. And they'll confirm that. And then you're going to ask them, and what's a different possibility? And what part of it is theirs? What part of it is yours? And so you're very lovingly, we use that term in our coaching competencies, you're lovingly confronting them. The objective here is you're challenging and expanding their thinking. It's moving them into the awareness. And then exploring different possibilities. Okay, what is a different possibility? Now, sometimes in this scenario, and part of it is going to be based on the level of trust in your coaching relationship, it may be that as a coach, excuse me, you're literally saying to the client, an observation for you. I'm hearing you talk about multiple different scenarios, and in each and every case, you're feeling or thinking the cause or the problem or the fault is somewhere else. Given how consistently this is happening, what's a different possibility? Now that's a big push. That takes having a lot of trust with that client built up, and it takes getting their permission to push them and challenge them with them knowing, hey, I'm doing this because I'm on your side. So literally exploring creating that awareness. All right. What if you have the person who lacks confidence? They got the promotion, they're not sure if they can do it. What are some different things that we can do as coaches? So one of the things that you can do is review what skills they have and review their past successes. For those of you that are graduates on the coach login page, there's actually a questionnaire for doing this, or a couple of them that you can use. So having them identify for themselves gives them that internal source of, oh yeah, I do have some skills and I do have successes. Another thing that you can do, and we do this in coaching, is explore the resources they have available to them. It's a huge confidence builder, because when people start saying, oh yeah, I do have this relationship or access to that other tool or whatever else it is, it's going to be really, really helpful to them in terms of, oh, I've got everything in place to make this work and to make it happen. Another great technique in coaching is finding those quick wins. So yes, they want the big picture success. What's something they can do right now to have a small success? Because each small success is a confidence builder. And as a coach, when they're making progress and they have those small successes, take time to acknowledge it, to celebrate it, so that they do give themselves the pat on the back and build their confidence. Of course, you also want to be planning. Hey, what's your process over the long term? In other words, you're starting this new position, this new role, you're moving up. Okay, is it going to be 100,000% there today? It's a process over time. So have them work through their milestones or benchmarks in terms of creating that success for themselves. In any one of these situations, back to using your overarching coaching skills, asking them, what do you want to change? What resources do you have? And how you will move forward. That is core to what we do in coaching, and it absolutely fits in these challenging scenarios. So now we've got one more that we're going to look at quickly, coaching competency. Sometimes you have an internal employee who wants to be a coach and they have no training, or you have an external coach who's being considered and they have no training. So let's go here with this for a second. Think about it this way. A couple hundred years ago, if somebody wanted to be a counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist, they didn't get any training. They just said, oh, I'm a counselor or I'm a therapist, and they started doing that work. The same was true of the medical profession, the legal profession, all the different professions out there. Now, coaching is a very young profession, which means there are still people that say, oh, I'm just going to call myself a coach, and that's okay. And the reality is, just like every other profession out there, we now know that training is important. So let's focus on this. If we have somebody internally that wants to coach, get the training for them. If you have an external coach, make sure they have the training. Look for that and look for that ICF membership, because then you know they're accountable to a code of ethics, and that's significant. So what are the competencies that get developed? And this is a great review for those of you who already have the training. The ICF has 11 core competencies for a coach. They're in 4 different categories. The first category is setting the foundation. The competencies here include meeting ethical guidelines and professional standards. So getting trained on the code of ethics, what it means, how it's applied, and then establishing the coaching agreement. We talked about in a couple of these scenarios being really clear up front what information is exchanged, how it's exchanged, hey, are there conflicts? Everything that's involved in the process of that agreement. Training there is essential. Next, co-creating the relationship. So your ability to establish trust and intimacy with the client is essential. Think about the example I just gave you, where you're going to really challenge and confront that individual. That comes from a place of having a level of trust that you can do that in a way that's going to support them and be effective. So learning how to establish trust and intimacy with the client, and then how to be present. We're all so busy, so many people multitask, we get distracted by other things. What are some specific techniques that keep you completely focused on the client and in the moment with them? Next, we have our communication skills. So actively listening in each and every one of these challenging scenarios. It is incumbent on the coach to really hear what's being said and what isn't being said, and having the ability to clarify that. The powerful coaching questions that we use, that's where you're going to do your exploration. You're going to expand the thinking, open up possibilities, and move people forward. And throughout that clear, direct, and respectful communication. Then we have facilitating learning and results. You're creating awareness because you've got the trust, you're present and in the moment with them, you're asking those powerful questions, and it does create awareness. You're designing actions with them where they're getting intentional, they're planning and goal setting about where they want to be. And of course, you're their partner for managing progress and accountability along the way. All right, so here's the push for each of you. What did you take away today, and how are you going to apply it in what you are doing as a coach? In support of what you're doing, you do have the International Coach Federation, of course, the Center for Coaching Certification, and the Center for Coaching Solutions. The International Coach Federation website is coachfederation.org. The Center for Coaching Certification is at coachcert.com, and the Center for Coaching Solutions.com. In addition to these organizations being a resource for you, you've got access to blogs, books, more free webinars, just having a quick check, and then of course we outsource. So very specifically, the blog is coachingblog.coachcert.com. A couple of articles every week to consistently be giving you new ideas and tips. publishing a book once a year, chapters written by graduates of the program. So a lot of fabulous insight from people in all different areas, all different walks of life. It's so impressive, the knowledge and the skill of all the people that are writing in these books. Then you've got the free webinars, just like this one. Make sure you're on our newsletter or checking on our resource page on the website. We are available if you want to just do a quick call or email to ask your questions. And then, of course, we outsource. We consult with organizations to start and run coaching programs for their organization. We do training for coaches if they want it. And then, of course, we've got coaches. A lot of you are part of that. So when you are looking for coaches, we go back consistently to all of the graduates we have for those opportunities. What's next for you? I'm happy to offer you a free consultation. Hey, you want to explore how we can be a help, a resource, what service we can provide, whatever else it is for you. Then, of course, you're choosing what resources you're using. Plan your process, be intentional, just like we are in coaching. Implement your strategy so that you achieve your results. Okay, so we have used our time. I'm going to let all of you know I am staying around for additional questions and answer time. Happy to do that as long as you're here. I've got a great question right now, and I'll throw this out because I'm guessing a lot of you want to explore this one. My challenge sometimes is giving the right answer to people who ask, why do I need a life coach? So, love the question. Couple of things to be thinking about. First off, go back to in the professional coach class, one of the things we had everybody do in the very first class is research the return on investment for coaching. And when you go out and look at all the different studies, it gives you some amazing insight in terms of the power. Another example I can think of, I do a free webinar each month that talks about coaching certification. And one of the statistics or one of the quotes that we use is from Forbes magazine. And it's, do I really need a career coach? And the answer is, yeah, if you don't have one, you could be harming your own career. Now, with that background in mind, okay, you've got the research side of it. Bring in the personal side. What personal experiences do you have as a client or a coach where coaching really made a difference? Put both of those in your pocket. And then with that individual, start asking them questions. Make this a coaching conversation. So instead of me telling you all this research and that kind of thing, yeah, that doesn't apply to you. I have it in my back pocket as a resource, as a tool. What I'm going to do is say, okay, so first off, I can set up that 20-minute, 30-minute introductory session, or alternatively, just in this initial conversation, I can say, so you're asking that question. Chances are there's something you want in your life that you're moving toward. What is it that you want? Okay. And what's gotten in your way of achieving that? And how do you move past that? And so you literally are exploring that in a quick conversation. Because ultimately, people want things, they want to create change, and it's a challenge. And when a coach is going to help them create that change and get there, then they identify for themselves the benefit of a coach. So what this boils down to is take the time to think about some questions for you to ask somebody when they're asking you, why do I want a coach? Why do I need a coach? Because ultimately you want them finding their own answer, just like you do in a coaching relationship. Because when they find their own answer, then it works. Then they're going to move forward. So hopefully that was helpful in terms of responding to that question. I am not seeing any other questions in here at this point in time. So if anyone wants to raise their hand or type one in, I'm happy to do that. In the meantime, those of you that are saying thank you, I'm really glad that this was good, that it was helpful for you, gave you a few extra tips. So thank you for being here, and thank you for the kind words you're typing in. So appreciate it, all of you. Make it a great day, and do let us know how we can be helpful.